Harrison Morgan. The first new killer was my own son. Harrison had never taken a life before, at least not that I knew of. It changed during one of his shifts at the hotel. The victim was Ryan Foster, a predator who spiked a drink to incapacitate and assault a female guest. Ryan asked Harrison to help Shauna to his room, claiming she was his wife who'd had too much to drink. Harrison knew the story was a lie, but he went along, unsure how to refuse without creating a scene. He left her there until he heard her cry out.
It's not my problem.
No. Stop it. No.
Shauna, are you okay?
That's when he rushed back in to pull Ryan off her, throwing him to the floor, fists connecting until Ryan was bleeding. Lying there, Ryan told Harrison he could take Shauna, because there would always be more women just like her. That sentence triggered something in Harrison, a memory, Molly Park and the other faces of Kurt Caldwell's victims. The rage was instant. He grabbed the lid from the toilet tank and brought it down on Ryan's head. Again and again, the porcelain cracked. Ryan's skull followed. His cleanup was rushed, guiding Shauna back to her room, scrubbing the bathroom, dismembering the body, packing it into garbage bags and sending them out with the trash. One bag split open at the dump, scattering part of a leg and starting a murder investigation. No one has proof connecting him to it. Yet. Keith, the Canton clubber. Keith was a contract killer working out of Canton, Michigan, funded by Leon Prater and part of his inner circle. He had the body count to earn a reputation and a spike club for a weapon. When Charley found him at an ATM, his card had just been declined. Keith was relieved to see her, convinced she'd brought the $100,000 he'd asked Prater for. He misread the room. Charley told him there was no money coming. The rules had been made clear. No requests, no demands, or you're out. Prater's network wasn't about tolerance, it was about control. Keith had crossed the line. She told him his account was closed and he was never to contact them again. When begging didn't work, he switched to threats, saying he'd go to the FBI with everything he knew about Prater. That sealed it. Charley killed him on the spot with his own spiked bat. No debate, no mercy. His body and the weapon were removed from the equation. The bat ended up in Prater's collection. One demand had erased him from the network. Ronald Schmidt. Red. I call Ronald the Imposter, but the media called him the Dark Passenger. I'll never call him that. There's only room for one. Ronald stalked rideshare drivers across New York City. At least a dozen lost their heads before I got involved. His method was as direct as it was sadistic. Slide into the back seat pretending to be the fare, wait for the driver to focus on the road, then wrap a giggly saw around their neck. He'd keep the pressure slow and deliberate, asking who would miss them when they were gone, before sawing all the way through and decapitating them in the car. His motive was rooted in his father's death. The man had invested everything in a taxi medallion, only to see its value collapse with the rise of rideshare apps. Drowning in debt, he jumped into the East River. When they searched for his body, dredgers brought up his head, severed by their own machinery. Ronald saw rideshare drivers as the cause, and every kill as revenge. I tracked him to a cybersecurity firm, the only employee with no online trace. No social media, no photograph, perfect anonymity. Once I confirmed the trophies hidden in his ceiling, I posed as his next fare. A metal band around my neck kept me from losing my head, and the M99 eventually tipped the struggle to my favor. I took him back to his place, turned kill room, and ended his spree. I skipped some of my ritual that night, but I left with something unexpected, an invitation to a killer dinner, and a severed thumb to use as the key. Lowell, the tattoo collector, a successful anesthesiologist by day, and a serial killer by night, with a fixation on keeping the tattooed skin of his victims. He stalked tattoo artists online to find his next target. Once he chose one, he followed them home, sedated them with anesthesia, and removed the skin containing a perfect tattoo as a trophy. At least 26 victims, 3 of those skins ending up in Prater's trophy collection. At Prater's, Lowell made his entrance with a smug greeting, calling Al Jolly a big tub of shit, then greeting Mia, and sizing me up with the smile you reserve for someone new in a room full of predators. He laid out his process for the group, even revealing he had someone lined up. Jules, the tattoo artist who'd just designed a piece to memorialize her recently deceased dog. That alone moved him to the top of my list. We met under the pretext of drinks. I followed when he went hunting. Just as he was about to sedate Jules, I struck, using his own anesthesia mask against him. I brought him back to the tattoo shop and ended it there. He stayed calm at first, which made sense. He knew what was coming. But when I told him I was the Bay Harbor butcher, the calm cracked. He screamed. I stabbed him with his own blade, then burned the remains in a furnace, after introducing him to Red. Al Jolly, Rapunzel. He was nice enough on the surface, Midwestern, a salesman, the kind of man who could sell you a used car and send you a Christmas card the same year. Married to Bonnie, proud father. But underneath that small-town charm was a predator who strangled women using their own ponytails, then keeping them as trophies. Al killed at least 18 women that way, sending 6 ponytails to Prater's collection. He showed up at Prater's dinner pretending to be everyone's buddy. Big smile, family stories, even joked about being a jolly guy. And he was, just for all the wrong reasons. He cheered Lowell's tattoo obsession and expressed sympathy over the dog sketch Jules planned to ink. The kindness felt like bait from a snake in a room full of killers. I can always spot the predator hiding behind the polite smile. His reaction to Lowell's presentation told me exactly where Al was headed. I knew I'd have to move fast. I didn't act that night, but people like Al don't stop. It's only a matter of time before his compulsion brings him to someone else's hair, and eventually my table. And when that happens, I won't make the mistake of holding back just because he has a family. Gareth, the Gemini Killer. I'd pegged him as quiet, too quiet. He was one of the guests at Prater's place. Most of us arrived with swagger, but Gareth sat subdued, self-contained, the most reserved predator in the room. Just from the 16 trophies on Prater's wall, I knew he'd killed at least 32 people, always in pairs. Victims posed together, hands clasped, bound even in death. What I didn't know was why the pattern was so consistent. While others at the table made an effort to charm or boast, Gareth stayed silent. He spoke little, observed much, just nodded respectfully at Prater and barely reacted when Keith was cut loose from the network. He'd been in the network the longest, which meant he'd probably seen more than the others. That silence wasn't shyness, it was calculation. I followed him after our second meeting at Prater's. He wasn't so quiet that time. Kept talking about needing to get rid of Mia and how she was a threat to him as the FBI's most wanted. I trailed him to a bookstore, intercepting a coded note meant for someone else. That night he was waiting in my apartment when I got back from Blessings. Asked why I took his note. I told him I was a fanboy. Poured him a gin and tonic, laced with a tranquilizer. No need for a confession, he'd already given it to me. I was hiding his body in the bathtub when Blessing came downstairs to apologize for his blow-up at the wake. Close call. The next day, Prater summoned us. I boarded the helicopter and waited for a dead man. Not more than a minute later, he was walking straight toward me. That's when I realized the Gemini label wasn't a metaphor, it was literal. Twins. Brothers working together, doubling the danger and the body count. One down, one to go. While at Prater's private castle, Gareth was starting to get suspicious, because everything started sliding off the rails once I joined the group. With him, honesty was the best play. I told him I knew he was a twin. Told him my brother was a killer like us, and I wished I had that relationship with him. Then I told him I killed his brother, and that I kill killers. He broke his wine glass, slashed my arm, and came at me. I used that same glass to shove in his neck and kill him. I don't normally kill for show, but this time I made an exception. Both twins down. Mia Lapierre, Lady Vengeance. Mia was deceptively appealing, renowned sommelier by day, and a serial killer in a way that made headlines. She was dubbed Lady Vengeance by the media, a vigilante who targeted sexual predators. That label painted her in softer colors than she deserved. She didn't always discriminate. Sometimes the kill was about the target. Sometimes it was about the thrill. She walked into Prater's circle with an intoxicating blend of allure and menace. I thought we found common ground, this obsession with justice, with cutting predators off at the knees. When she invited me for a run, I leaned in, curious. She told me where it started. Her sister had been molested by their mother's boyfriend. Mia was still young, but old enough to feel the rage that comes from seeing someone you love hurt and powerless. She killed him, and instead of closing that chapter, the act gave her a reason to keep going. Then she made a move that revealed everything. Wanting to collab on a kill, she framed it like some twisted menage a trois. My first instinct was restraint, but clarity came fast. I watched her seduce a man, knock him out, prepared to torture him. That's when I called the police, not to save the mark, but to stop her. In her apartment, they found everything. Evidence, trophies, even Ryan Foster's watch, the hotel predator that Harrison killed. I intentionally planted it to clear his name. She was arrested that night, but she never made it to trial. At Gemini's insistence, Charley paid off a guard, and Mia was found hanging in her cell, ruled a suicide. In Prater's world, that's what you call closing a file. Charley, Prater's head of security and enforcer, a former federal special ops officer who became the lethal right hand of a billionaire who worships killers. Her role went beyond protection. She was the final arbiter of who lived and who died in that twisted circle. I first saw how she operated when she confronted Keith. He was demanding money from Prater. Charley didn't argue, didn't negotiate, just delivered Prater's message. No demands, no second chances. When Keith pushed back, she turned his own spiked bat against him, executed him with it, then added it to Prater's collection. Effective, brutal, unflinching. Charley kept her distance from most of the group. We crossed paths more than once, her assessing, me assessing back. She carried herself like someone who knew every exit, every angle. If Prater was the head of the network, Charley was the blade. There are signs she isn't comfortable with the killers she manages. She does her job, but you can see it in the way she moves. After Mia was arrested, Prater sent Charley to handle it. She paid off a guard, and Mia was found hanging in her cell, ruled a suicide. In this circle, that's what handling someone means. The New York Ripper. The New York Ripper hasn't appeared in Prater's circle, not yet, but the body count says enough. At least 19 victims across the city. The kills are savage, deliberate, and staged to send a message. Though he's not currently actively killing, he's still calling and tormenting the family of the victims. Prater speaks about the Ripper with the same pride he reserves for the killers already in his network. Some of the trophies are part of his private trophy collection. Photos, evidence, artifacts, but not a single clue to the killer's identity. That's rare, even among the predators I've met. Whoever's behind it is still active, and from the way Prater talks, an introduction is inevitable. When it happens, I'll know whether the Ripper is someone I can let walk out of that meeting, or someone who'll need to end up on my table. Blessing Kamara, my landlord. Kind, gentle, the sort of man who always asks how you're doing and actually listens to the answer. In another life, that would be all there is to know. But the night after his mom passed, before the wake was even finished, he told me about the time he killed someone. He was a boy then, drugged, forced to fight as a soldier for the Revolutionary United Front in Sierra Leone. It only happened once, not out of rage or desire, but because someone made him into a weapon. It's the kind of confession most people couldn't carry, but with Blessing it's a scar. He's not a predator. He doesn't have a spot on my table, and from what I know of him, he never will. Cooper Morris, the man who killed Prater's parents. They never called it murder in court, it was ruled a hit and run. Prater started writing to him, letters full of blame, grief, need. Cooper never showed remorse. He just told the truth. He deliberately rammed into them, took their lives with intent. That act became the origin story for everything that followed. That cold honesty hooked Prater. He became the first true serial killer Leon ever connected with, and the start of it all. Cooper confessed he'd killed others too, though he didn't say how many. He died not long after. His death marked the beginning of Prater's fascination with serial killers, the twisted hobby that drew me back into the dark. Leon Prater. Leon Prater started as a collector, a billionaire who worshipped killers, funded them, and surrounded himself with predators while curating their trophies like art. But obsession curdles into participation. He couldn't stay on the sidelines forever.
Angel, you just couldn't let go. And now, here you are. Here we are.
When it came time, he pulled the trigger himself. He shot Angel Batista, cold, deliberate, without hesitation. That moment erased the line between patron and participant. Prater wasn't just the man behind the curtain anymore. He was a killer. He liked the feeling. He even held Harrison at gunpoint, intending to kill him. When I offered myself in exchange for Harrison, Prater tried to shoot me. Harrison used the M99 I'd given him days earlier and injected Prater, knocking him out. I turned Prater's vault into a kill room. I skipped the blood slide. He was one person I didn't want to remember. After I dismembered him and removed any trace that could point to Harrison or me, I triggered the alarm so the cops at the gala downstairs would find the trophy room and link Prater to Batista's murder. Then I took his yacht and disposed of him in the bay. Some came at me to kill, others to put me away. But the ones who truly got close weren't always killers. Find out who they were in every on-screen Dexter villain and antagonist explained.